So Walkertown is one of those places that people just skip by on their way to Winston-Salem or Kernersville. And that's actually one of the reasons why some people find it a sweet spot of the Triad, while other people move right in and then realize how super quiet the area is. So in this video, what we're gonna do is we're gonna talk about the pros and the cons of living in Walkertown and where actually Walkertown is. If this is your first time to my channel, make sure you hit subscribe so you don't miss out on any of our upcoming content. I'm a local realtor in the Triad and I help people just like you every day buy, sell, and relocate to the Triad, and we'd love to help you. You can either call, text, DM, or set up a Zoom meeting right below on the link. All of our information is in the comments. So let's jump in and talk about Walkertown and where it's at. Where it is it's right in between Winston-Salem, Kernersville, and Greensboro. It's only about 8 miles from Winston-Salem. It's right off of Highway 311 and 158, and actually the new beltway that's been coming through the Triad right off of 74. So living in Walkertown is so much more accessible than it ever has been in the past. And I feel like that is why Walkertown is just going to blow up at this point, because no longer is it a small, quiet town that kind of, you have to take all the back roads to get to. Now it is easy and super accessible from Highway 74. And that beltway, I will tell you, is just amazing. It saves so much time getting to Walkertown, King, and the other parts of Winston-Salem. So that's a little bit about Walkertown and where it's located. It is only a few minutes from Winston-Salem, like I mentioned. So you can live in Walkertown, which is actually a pretty small and quaint community, right in between Kernersville and Winston-Salem. Now, when people want to live in Kernersville and at the price point maybe just a little higher, I always suggest Walkertown, and most people are surprised that Walkertown is actually so close to Kernersville. They're actually in some of the locations that one street is Kernersville and then the next street over in a neighborhood could be considered Walkertown. People also don't realize how close Walkertown is from Wake Forest University. It's about 10 or 15 minutes, depending on what part of Walkertown you're in. And now, like I had mentioned before, with the Beltway coming through the area, it has made it even easier and more accessible. Now, from Walkertown to Kernersville, you're looking at about 7 to 8 minutes to downtown Kernersville and Highway 421. So again, it's very accessible to Kernersville as well as Winston-Salem. And this is one of those towns that people just don't talk about, or they just kind of skip over or forget about. And it's one of those towns that I feel like is a really upcoming area and community. And it's just in its quieter, small town community feel. So you will still have that feeling in Walkertown. There's not a ton of restaurants. There's not a ton of grocery stores, just, all the kind of shopping that you would want, but everything is so close that it makes it a great place to call home. But what we're gonna do right now is we're gonna jump in all the pros of living in Walkertown. And the number one pro of living in Walkertown is it has a extremely small town feel to the city. It has a community park, it has community festivals. It just is a tight-knit, quaint community. That is why I call Walkertown an up and coming community, because it just hasn't been overly populated yet, and they're building neighborhoods left and right. So there's gonna be a lot of new construction there in the future, but it just hasn't completely taken off yet. But now that the Beltway has come through the area, I feel like it's going to explode. The next pro about living in Walkertown is that it has a lot of community parks. One of the community parks, the Walkertown Community Park, is actually 28 acres, and it's actually right in the middle of town. You'll see people every day out there walking and playing baseball and just enjoying the community park. Another great thing about living in Walkertown is you are minutes from Belews Creek, which is a huge lake. So if you like lake life but don't want to live at Belews Creek, or maybe can't afford to live on the lake, then Walkertown is a great location. I actually have friends that live in Walkertown that love boating, and they have an amazing boat. but don't want to live at Belews Creek because it's just a little further and it's a little rural and it is a lot more expensive depending on where you live at. So they live in Walkertown and they love Walkertown. They live in the most amazing neighborhood. They love the community of the neighborhood, but they love the accessibility to the creek as well as all the community parks. And they talk about it all the time, how their kids play baseball at the community park and they walk every day with their friends. So that is a great aspect of living in Walkertown. Another pro about living in Walkertown is that the schools for all the early years of your child's education are actually still located in Walkertown. So there's Walkertown Elementary and Walkertown Middle School, which have pretty good ratings. And I definitely would explore that online and just doing a little bit of research on that. But when the kids get a little older, high school, etc., you will have to go outside of Walkertown. That's the trade-off. The early education schools are great and they're still located very close in town, but once they get in high school, the kids will have to leave Walkertown. So that's kind of a cool aspect. Another great aspect of living in Walkertown is the price points. They're just under Kernersville or some areas of Winston-Salem, so you can get quite a bit of house for the price. So they're still moderately priced compared to other parts of Winston-Salem as well as Kernersville. And I've actually helped so many families move to Walkertown, and literally, like I'd mentioned before, that the streets are like one street away from Kernersville, that you would almost think that the home was located in Kernersville, but it was actually in Walkertown. And the reason why these families moved there is because the price point was just under what it would cost to live in Kernersville, and they could just get more bang for their buck, basically, by buying in Walkertown and rather than Kernersville, because Kernersville is so popular, and because of that, it has definitely raised the price in Kernersville. The last reason why Walkertown is such a great place to live is that actually the location of where the town sits. It is accessible to everywhere in just minutes. So if you think about it, if you can get to Wake Forest or Winston-Salem within 7 to 15 minutes, wherever you want to go, you can get to Kernersville in about 7 or 8 minutes and get to Greensboro in no longer than probably 20 minutes on the new beltway, which is amazing. Again, I love that road. It has made it so much easier to get around Walkertown and or get around the Triad, which I'm so grateful that we are finishing the beltway. So that is one of the most exciting things about living in Walkertown, is the accessibility to everywhere. So now what we're gonna do is we're gonna switch directions and we're gonna talk about all the cons. But right now, I wanna hear from you what video you would love for me to do next. I love reading it in all the comments, just drop it below. But let's jump in right now. The first con about living in Walkertown is you're gonna run into a lot more existing smaller brick ranch homes. You're not gonna have a ton of new construction communities yet, but they are coming. But that is a con, that you're gonna run into a lot of older homes in Walkertown. Another downside of living in Walkertown is that there's not a huge amount of nightlife or excitement because it is a smaller, quiet town. And you will actually have to drive to do most of your shopping and your entertainment because Walkertown, like I said, it's a small community and it's just in between Kernersville and Winston-Salem. There's just not a ton there. Again, if you love the lake, that's only 10 minutes from you. Otherwise, you're gonna have to have a car and you're not going to be able to do tons of walkable shopping, etc., or eating out, restaurants, etc. in Walkertown. It's a small community. Another kind of negative attribute about looking for a home in Walkertown or living there is that they just don't have a ton of inventory. Again, it's an up and coming community, so it is starting to grow. So therefore, if you want to live in Walkertown, it could be something where you have to wait to find the right house that you're looking for. Again, they're building a bunch of new neighborhoods, widening roads. They're expecting the population in Walkertown to burst. But right now, it's just one of those things that if this is an area that you want to live in, it just may take a little while to find the perfect home. The last con about living in Walkertown is that you are close to everything but not really close to anything living in Walkertown. Again, it's a rural community that just literally has been put on the map, essentially, with the new beltway going through the area, and has made it so much more accessible that people are really excited in exploring Walkertown. But because of that, there's just not a ton of activities. Again, that is the biggest con I would say about living in Walkertown, that you just have to make sure that you have a car, because there is no mass transit system, and that if you want a dessert at 9 p.m., you might have to drive to Winston-Salem or Kernersville to get that, because you may not find it in Walkertown. It's a little bit more sleepy. There's a couple of grocery stores, there's smaller mom and pop restaurants, and a couple of fast food restaurants, but there's just not a ton of all of that kind of shopping and restaurants in Walkertown yet. But do I think that they'll have it soon? I do think they'll have a lot more soon. But right now, that's probably the biggest con, that you're close to everything, but not really that close to anything. So if you're still thinking about Walkertown and whether or not Walkertown is the next place you want to call home, or if you have any questions about anywhere else in the Triad, such as Kernersville, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, etc., again, all of our information is below in the comments. We'd love to chat with you. You can call, text, or DM me, or set up a Zoom meeting where we can chat face-to-face about your next move, whether it's today, tomorrow, or in 9 years or 9 weeks. We'd love to be able to chat with you about your move to the Triad.